When you think about the reality of Noah's Ark, you might have questions about its size, its construction, or its cargo. Because you've probably seen the pictures like I have, of a quaint little boat and an old pudgy man and a handful of animals packed inside. We show these pictures to our children in books and in video. But what was Noah's Ark really like? Did Noah and his sons really build the ark? And did they really live on it with all those animals for months? And how about the big question? How large was the ark? I mean, how long, how tall, how wide? Well, on these questions, we don't have to be left wondering. In the Bible, God gives precise measurements to Noah for exactly how big the ark should be.
And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits.
And there you are. In God's instructions are the very precise measurements for the ark. But you might be wondering, but what's a cubit? We don't use the cubit as a modern unit of measurement. But in the ancient world, the cubit simply referred to the length of a man's forearm from the elbow to the fingertip, roughly 18 inches. And being such a practical form of measurement, it was likely the most common unit of length in the ancient civilizations, such as the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Egyptian, and the Hebrew. Now, with the understanding that 1 cubit is 18 inches, or 1.5 feet, how big was the ark? In order to help us visualize what these dimensions mean, I am standing here next to the only full-scale, floating, modern-day replica of Noah's Ark, built based on the Bible specifications. The ark is 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet tall. Inside there are 3 decks. Each deck has over 30,000 square feet, which means that the ark has a total of over 100,000 square feet. Its volume is equivalent to 1.5 million cubic feet, or approximately 17 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Now, while some of the specific construction details of this modern replica may be different from the actual ark that Noah built, what this modern-day representation does provide is an astounding perspective of the actual dimensions and scale of Noah's Ark. Let's take this monumental structure and explore its size. Let's first try to put the ark's length, 450 feet, in perspective. A convenient comparison is to think about some popular modern sporting venues. Take, for example, an American football field. The length of the ark is equivalent to the length of 1.25 of these fields, measuring from goalpost to goalpost. Or if you're a baseball fan, sitting in Yankee Stadium in New York, on the front row behind home plate, the 450-foot ark very nearly matches the distance from your seat to the farthest wall out in center field. Now let's consider the area marked out by the ark and the amount of deck space that the ark would provide. According to Genesis 6:16, the ark was divided into 3 decks, lower, second, and third. So if Noah were to make a visual inspection around all 3 decks, he would have to walk about 6/10 of a mile. If we now take our length and our width for each deck, we can calculate the square footage to be 33,750 square feet per deck, which means that the entire ark had a total of 101,250 square feet. Going back to our common sports comparisons, the ark would have had the same approximate area as 2 American football fields, or 21 basketball courts. So we've discussed the length of the ark and the area included in the decks. But before we calculate its total internal volume, let's consider the end dimensions. 75 feet wide by 45 feet tall. These cross-sectional dimensions very nearly match the wingspan and the tail height of NASA's space shuttle. So if you were to open the end of the ark and begin loading in the shuttles, you would be able to load in the shuttle Atlantis, then the space shuttle Discovery, then the shuttle Enterprise, and then the shuttle Endeavour would nearly fit up until its engines. So almost 4 NASA space shuttles would fit within the volume of the ark. Now, in terms of transporting cargo, the ark's immense volume would be equivalent to carrying 527 railroad boxcars. Or, when calculated, it comes out to be over 1.5 million cubic feet of internal space. Oftentimes there are wild misconceptions about Noah's Ark. One of the first says that Noah's Ark is the largest floating vessel to have ever been built. This is simply not true. Though it was the largest vessel at its time in history, there have been many ships built in the millennia afterward that have been comparable and even greater in size. Now, this should not discredit or lessen the Ark's extremely significant place in history, but instead it should bring into our view an accurate reality for the biblical proportions of Noah's Ark. Now, in the last 150 years, advancements in the construction of metal ships and ocean liners has seen the production of enormous vessels like the Great Eastern, the Titanic, the Queen Mary, and any number of modern-day cruise ships. These ships have become essentially floating cities with thousands of travelers, crew, and a multitude of onboard destinations. However, in terms of wooden ships, the Ark does rank among the largest in history.